anything else to do with religion, with Islam, it's a fraud, it's a fake. We're Muslims, we're Chechens, we're ethnic Chechens. Somebody radicalized them, but it's not my brother who just moved back to Russia, who spent his life bringing bread to their table, fixing cars. He didn't have time or chance or anything, option. He's been working. My family, it has nothing to do with that family. Of course, we're ashamed. Yes, we're ashamed. They're children of my brother,
Did one of them
who had little influence of them, honestly, as much as I know, who had little influence of them. Me, myself, and this family had nothing to do with them for a long, long time. And if I even slightly be aware that they were involved, I'll be the first one to bring them into responsibility.
And these are some powerful words coming from the uncle of the suspects. And you heard him here say, you know, turn yourself in, he says to his 19-year-old nephew. And he says, you know, you've put a shame on the family. He's really separating himself from the situation and saying you should beg forgiveness from the victims' families. When we saw this come up on screen initially, you said, this is a bad idea.
Well, it's compelling television. This person is obviously distraught, you know, when the camera removes all peripheral vision and you see and hear this person's state of mind and physical state. It's compelling to put it on television, so I don't really fault the journalist. Journalism is designed to go find out stuff and disseminate it widely without making a big judgment, and even the courts have ruled on this. That's what journalism is supposed to do in so-called fair comment. But a word about police work. I believe that that is a citizen, a tax-paying citizen, who may be in danger. Emotions are running high, and I think having him stand on the street talking about this issue at least puts him into some sort of danger. And if I were in the chain of command in the police, which I am never going to be and have not been, I would say, let's get this guy out of here. Let's put him into protective custody. Let's take him down to the police station as a person of interest and give him a donut and a cup of coffee and say, what do you know? Who do your nephews hang around with? Where do they habitually play? Do they happen to go up and look at the you know, the witch exhibit in Salem? Where might we look for these people? That would be more legitimate police work, in my view, than holding an impromptu news conference. Don't forget, Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin of John F. Kennedy, got shot in the Dallas police station by Jack Ruby, who thought he was doing a good job to avenge this horrible act for Mrs. Kennedy. So I think it's fine to have him make that appeal. That could have been videotaped, it could have been broadcast, but the melee on the street, I don't like.
He was, again, very quick to separate himself from the situation. He said, you know, there was some sort of falling out. He didn't go into detail with the family, so he hasn't spoken to his nephews for a little bit of time. But he said one thing, that this is the whole Chechen ethnicity, the whole community. Now, he feels like they've painted this bad picture of this ethnicity. I mean, is he himself, by saying that, almost putting a target on a community?
Well, sure, but I don't think he can do a better job than Hollywood movies can, or than commentary in the general media or in blogs can. I mean, we live in very tense and difficult times, and you know, unfortunately, people are going to draw conclusions about race or ethnicity or what have you, and occasionally so-called ethnocentrism, national characteristics are accurate. You know, as has been said about America, you know, you talk about Swiss technocracy and you get cuckoo clocks. You talk about German technocracy, you get great cars. You talk about American technocracy, you get a man on the moon. I mean, national characteristics. You get high-speed rail in Germany. You don't have high-speed rail much in America. So, I mean, nations do have characteristics. That doesn't mean you can benchmark benchmark cultures or religions or nations, and it doesn't mean that individuals don't do things as individuals and not as members of a group. That's a tough topic. I hope I walked that minefield all right.
And he was quick to say this isn't about religion. We clipped just the top of that clip there, but he did say it has nothing to do with religious background. It has nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, but imagine you have a loved one who's killed, and someone walks up to you 36 hours later and says, oh, by the way, the person who killed them was of this particular demographic group, and let me tell you about that demographic group and national origin and religion, and most of them are good people, and all of them except this one are good people, and so on. You're not ready to hear that 36 hours later. Now is not the time, I don't think, to have that discussion. Now is the time to apprehend that person, suspect, to give himself up, to perhaps save his own life, and for good police work to happen.
So in hearing relatives come out and say this sort of thing, there is a good and there is a bad. As you said, there is an appeal. But if he was watching, if the suspect was watching Jahar and saw his uncle say that, do you think that that would persuade him to come in?
Well, you never know. We're talking about trying to analyze either a sick or a devious mind, or both, that is in Boston, and we're doing it here live on television from Toronto. So it could work, it could help. Maybe the uncle is so far removed from the suspect that it won't have any effect. Maybe it will jar him, the suspect, back into reality and say, gee, maybe I should, because I don't want to die like my brother, or maybe I'm going to go out in a blaze of what I perceive as glory. So we can't analyze a sick or a tormented or a deluded mind, but it's all worth a shot. And if I were working for the police, I would write a protocol in, take the person into protective custody, videotape a call, perhaps even concealing the person's identity or disguising it a little bit, videotape a call to have the suspect turn himself in, and not allow street-level, sidewalk-level press conferences.
And as we've been hearing, also a couple other siblings in the U.S., and there are then going to be more relatives who could be in the United States. So that is your recommendation for other family members, even close friends, because there is that association.
Yeah, keep yourself safe. Now, you know, time wounds all heals. I'm in New York a great deal, and there is a very famous theater there called the Booth Theater, and that's named after the brother of John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln. And every time I go by, I think, isn't that remarkable that such a hideous crime, the perpetrator of which, you know, was only the brother of the person who that theater's named after, and we shouldn't cause all family members to be tarnished by this crime. But I just find it ironic to walk by the Booth Theater in New York on a regular basis, and the family ultimately apologized for that. But what do you say about that? How do these people move on with their lives? Right now, day 2 is the time to keep those citizens safe, because emotions are running high.